grammar, and he used to pick and peck, and it was too slow.
Yeah, sure.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I call it. And he just relaxed into it, and now he knows the screenwriter. But
What's that? Wow. Okay.
Education.
So Melbourne Uni was still going.
We're overseas or here?
No, the one you were in. Was it in Melbourne?
Yeah, Footscray North Primary School.
Footscray North. And then high school?
High school, I went. Then I moved to
Carey.
Waldo. I moved to Waldo. Yeah. Which is now Doncaster Heights or something, but it used to be called Waldo, which is what that Doncaster area's German name was.
Sure.
From there, I went to University High School for 2 years.
Oh, Uni High.
Yeah.
It's a very wild regard.
Yeah, and my brother went there too. He was the last person to sit an entrance exam for University High because it used to be entrance exam only.
Now you have to live in the area, don't you?
Yeah, now it's feeder. Yeah.
Oh,
And that allowed them to bring in the flats as well.
Yep.
Which meant that you had the children of brain surgeons sitting next to kids who had come from Chile and fled Pinochet.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And people were living in community sharing
Community sharing houses.
Wow.
Loads of Vietnamese kids that I'd gone to primary school who'd crossed over
It's
as
an
well.
interesting school, yeah.
Got a scholarship to Carey and took the scholarship to Carey, and that was, you get to do sport, which was awesome.
That's a very sport-oriented school.
Yeah. Now it is. It wasn't when I went.
Wasn't it?
No, they won Head of the River a couple of times after I went, and then just took right off.
Yeah, right.
But it was co-ed, and that was the kicker for me.
Yeah.
Kicker?
Yeah, because I did really well in another school's entrance exam as well, and there was a choice. And my dad said, "Oh, what about that one?" I said, "No, no girls."
Was it Melbourne High?
No, I didn't sit that exam. I should have sat that exam.
I went to Macrob.
Yeah, well, see, this is an enduring frustration of mine. If I could have it again, I would have sat that exam. Because when I got to uni, nearly all of my friends at uni are Melbourne High boys.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Now that's an awesome school. Melbourne High is a really good school. It's
Tough, lots of drug addicts.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know, but...
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah, well,
Melbourne Uni.
And then Melbourne Uni.
Yeah, Melbourne Uni. That was Melbourne Uni back when there wasn't voluntary student unionism, so the university had a culture. So I've had phases at uni where I did 8 years straight, and I did a comm law degree.
Yeah.
Finished the comm, wrote a letter to the arts faculty saying, "Please take me, my brain is dry. I don't know where my soul is.
Oh my God.
Would you have me and allow me to finish my law degree whilst doing an arts degree?" And at that point in time they said yes, and I thought the expectation was I'd only have to do 200 points, but I ended up doing 300, a full degree.
What? That's hardcore.
But it made law so much easier.
What part of arts did you do?
That's a story in itself. Started off in ancient language and ancient history because I thought that's what I was going to do. So I did Latin and I did ancient history. I really enjoyed the ancient history. After a semester of Latin, thought, fuck, this is too much work. I'm not going to do this. Went and withdrew. They failed to register my withdrawal. So when you get that sheet of paper saying the exams you've got to sit, I had to sit a Latin exam.
Yeah, right.
And I went in and said, fuck, I withdrew. And they said, it's not on the system. If you don't sit the exam, you've got to fail. You've got to give you an N.
Oh, that's
and so I spent 2 weeks learning an entire Latin course, and I passed the exam.
Well done.
And then they failed me because I didn't attend.
Enough lectures,
What?
tutorials.
Oh my God.
15% attendance.
That's rude.
Oh my God.
So I got, I think, 52 or something on the exam, so passed. Right?
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, failed, but it was serendipitous. It worked out because I had to do one more first year subject, and I picked up a subject which was run by Philip Darby, Professor Philip Darby, and Michael Dutton, who are both brilliant men, very, very different and interesting, who taught pretty much a 4th year course at first year called The World is an Amazing Place, Politics of Other Cultures.
Wow, that'd be an awesome subject.
Yeah, so you do Edward Said, you do some of the great thinkers in post-colonial studies.
Yeah.
Right.
You do all of them up front, and you work through that with this background of Dutton and Darby basically telling stories, where Dutton would just walk into a lecture and would go. He would have a sketch of a plant and he would just go.
Oh, I love something
God.
better
And
than
that
a
was
lecturer who's passionate.
Yeah, and that was a great
That's so
environment. And the honours students who were born in those classes who went through wrote just exceptional things. They weren't writing standard things.
Yeah, right.
They would be questioning gender, they'd be questioning dynamics of colonialism and colonised, they'd be questioning the systems of organisation of wealth.
And Melbourne Uni were alright with that?
They didn't like it, but it was
They
a
wouldn't.
very, very popular course.
They wouldn't like people
No.
writing
Money,
things that they
yeah.
hadn't heard about and
Yeah.
things that aren't someone already has
Well,
written about.
these were big in the world though, so they were basically at the bleeding edge of
Mm.
what was happening in humanities. So you were getting this stuff that was actually interacting with everyone else who was
Yeah.
talking about interesting stuff.
Yeah.
They ended up creating an Institute of Postcolonial Studies.
Oh, cool. Oh,
So
great.
that's a space that anyone can go to and just hear interesting shit. So, you know,
Good.
experience. a
So your
particular-
experience of Melbourne Uni was an overall positive thing?
Nah.
No.
Surely not.
Nah.
I spent a lot of time just hanging out and meeting people and not really going to class and then just making it up at the end and
Yeah.
Mhm.
learning what I needed to learn. They teach for the herd and
Yep.
Yeah.
it is really, it had become, by that stage, especially a commerce degree, it becomes quite mechanical
Mhm.
and they're not really
Sure.
teaching you life skills, they're
How
not
to
teaching you how to
think.
run a
Yeah, it's
business,
groundbreaking,
how to think.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're just teaching you what people have already
That's
thought about
right.
before.
And a lot of stuff, well, that's university in general, though.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, but I guess a romantic version of Aristotle or Plato at the
Mm.
Lyceum, where
Yeah.
you punch on about ideas.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You had to shelter your lecturer and get him to the agora, so
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
he'd give his lecture,
Yeah.
and you had to shelter him and get him home.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Eh?
You know, but people actually care about what they're talking about, so
Yeah.
it wasn't so industrialised.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my major memory from bad memory of Melbourne Uni was in first year. You know, in arts, in the first year, you mostly just sort of taught how to research and reference and structure an essay and all that. But we were given a topic, whatever it was, and I wrote a response with a couple of ideas of my own, which I'd thought about myself. And I got marked down for them, and they were underlined saying you need to reference these. And I said it's my own idea. There is no reference to that.
Yeah.
And I had referenced other stuff. It wasn't like
Yeah.
I didn't do the research. She goes, "You're not allowed to have any new ideas. You have to reference everything,
Yeah.
and you have to find them from somewhere else."
That's awful.
Like that.
Mm.
That's.
But that's also someone feeling threatened.
Oh, you reckon the
Yeah.
tutor? Yeah.
Yeah, because I did it. I worked
Really?
up. I worked
By
That's
first
pretty
year?
bad.
I
By
worked out
first
pretty
year.
early. Like I would just go see the lecturer and say, "I'm not going to write any of the things you've got." At the bottom, you say a topic of your own. Here's my topic,
Yeah.
and then I would just write my own topics.
Yeah, always.
Always.
Yeah.
So it'd extend beyond the coursework. But within about 3 weeks, you'd know
And they
what-
wouldn't be able to mark it.
Well, only the lecturer could mark it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
So what would happen was you would know within about 3 or 4 weeks the direction of the teaching and
Yeah.
where they wanted to end.
Yeah.
And depending on how engaged or inquisitive you are, I would always be looking for what is next. Like I guess that's the way my brain. What is next?
Yeah.
What haven't you asked?
So you
Now
go and
that you
research
know
that
this,
and write
and
about
I'll
it.
do that.
So you just learn a whole other topic, really,
Yeah.
essentially.
Well, using what they've given you,
Yeah.
use it as a platform to jump off.
Yeah, that's cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, that's very,
But they don't tell you can do that. See, they leave you the option, but it's not a supported option because it's easy to mark the syllabus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting experience.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I had the same experience doing a law essay where in first year I'd picked up, pretty stupidly really, Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil. I was just reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
good?
a
Is it
hard
readable?
read. It's a
Okay.
hard read, but you don't read it like a book because they're aphorisms. So you got like maybe 4 lines about a particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
You just read that, and it just blows your brain
You just
apart.
think about it for the next couple of
Yeah,
days.
yeah, it would. I would just shatter my brain.
Unreal.
from reading. And I'd put it down and fuck, I can't pick that up. So I've dealt with this shattering.
Yeah.
And
love
I've
it.
constituted myself.
Pick
so
the
that-
pieces up.
So yeah, that's right.
Restructuring your head.
Yeah, and then I can read the next bit. And,
Yeah.
and I had the same experience. I wrote a law essay and did all the shit myself and came up with some propositions. And in the margin was written, Rawls' original proposition. I went, who the fuck is Rawls?
Rules.
Yeah, like
Okay.
John Rawls.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know who he was at the time.
I don't know who he is now.
Yeah.
He's a philosopher.
Ah,
and
right.
he thought the same thoughts. And you think, well, I guess, that's probably quite likely that human beings are
That's
capable of
the-
thinking the same thoughts when you're starting at a particular point. Like,
Yeah,
there's a
I-
sequence
yeah.
of shit that happens that gets you to that
Yeah.
conclusion.
Yeah. Mm.
It's what helps us live together.
I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, and then after uni, did you go straight into?
Yeah, well, what I did was I did a bridging course at Leo Cousins Institute, which qualifies you for law. I got some advice from a cousin of mine who practiced law in Malaysia, and he said, everyone I know who's done a double degree who went with the non-law degree, when they've decided they've wanted to come back to the law, they've had to retrain.
I found it
And
hard.
it's too big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't do it. He said, just go, get yourself
Do it.
qualified.
Is
And
that like the same as sitting the law exam? Is that?
It's, I don't know what they call it now, College of Law or something they
Okay.
call it now,
Sure.
but it's like a course-based one where you run your own firm.
Yeah.
So it's suited to developing sole practitioners, so someone who puts up a shingle and just runs a suburban practice.
Okay.
It's aimed at
So
giving
it's
you
practical.
practical. Give you a
Sure.
broad skill set. I did that, and then I sort of, after that, didn't know what I was going to do, applied for stuff, and did an interview at the tax office, and got
Told
into...
them that.
So
In
you're
the
going to run
interview.
people down like dogs.
Yeah, yeah. I did an interview. I was friends with the HR person who actually structured the program, and she told me afterwards that they'd never experienced an interview like that
Yeah, right.
before. And at the end of the interview, they ask you a general question, which they should probably ask at the start: is why are you here? Why do you want to do this work? And being me, I looked at them seriously, in all seriousness, and said, I'm here to release the hounds. And they all looked at each other, there was 4 of them in the panel, and then looked back and said, pardon? And I said, I leant forward and I said, I'm here to release the hounds. Then there was another pause that lasted about 30, 45 seconds, and then one of them said, would you mind elaborating on that? And that was a shock to me. So I decided.
Shock to you.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it was a shock to
Hold
me.
on, why do I
'cause
want to do this?
I thought that was self-explanatory, and
Yeah.
and I looked at them and I said, well, I pay my tax. My parents pay their tax. Everyone I know pays their tax. The only way that I pay less tax is if the people who don't pay their tax pay their tax.
Yeah.
So I'm here to release the hounds.
No.
And that was.
And it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it does, and that's what I did. Like, chase people at the top end,
Yeah.
companies and individuals and whatnot who are evading tax.
Okay. Yeah.
And there are a few out there.
So you're a real detective.
Well, it's interesting. It's a funny skill set. I reckon you've got to. I reckon the naughty kids are the best at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they don't just look in the system.
Because you know sort of how people think.
Well, the
to
naughty kids
evade.
are always thinking about what's on the outside.
What would I do? Or, yeah.
What's on the outside? How do I make this better?
Mm.
And so you can teach people to do it, but some people, it is a bit like detective work. And a lot of it's just hard, shitty work where you're looking at documents that have been seized or
Yeah.
copied
Ah,
and
right.
trying to reconstruct transactions. And for tax, and lots of things are created artificially, especially that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
Sure.
That
Trying to piece
sounds
it
so.
together.
Oh, I could not do that.
It sounds like it's tedious work. For
It
sure.
is, to start with. It is like
Yeah.
you're cataloguing stuff and trying to make sense of it. And it depends how some people you meet are really good at seeing the pattern, and the better you see
Sure.
a pattern, and the better you can see a big picture, the quicker you can put the puzzle together.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed doing that, working
Yeah.
out what the puzzle was,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I can
breaking it
imagine.
down.
Yeah.
So did you see a general trend in like how does our taxpayers behave in Australia? Because it was federal that you were working at.
Yeah.
So are we generally, there's lots of corrupt shit going on, or
No, we're really good.
Yeah, we're surely we're really
Yeah,
good.
and the tax office at a federal level is quite clever, and they've done a lot of things. They had a transformational leader called Trevor Boucher,
Yeah.
who basically introduced a whole lot of other shit, and they got a lot of support with Keating when he was treasurer. I think there's a story, I don't know whether it's apocryphal, no, not true or whatever, but he walked into Constitution Avenue and had a look around and shook his head, came back the next day with computers and wheeled computers in and said, you're going to start using these.
and everyone was like, no to change.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they did it though. They did it because
Yeah.
they were told by the treasurer to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've gone through a lot of transformation. Like, they're no longer like a police service, because to run a tax office like a police service, you're wasting money.
Mm.
You don't need to chase everyone down. Most people do the right thing, and a lot of their research had shown that. But they also did interesting things, like they funded research, and as a result, they're a team. I think they may be either brother or sister or husband and wife, Braithwaite and Braithwaite, did a thing called. They created a compliance model. It's called. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically a pyramid. And at the bottom of the pyramid is most of your population.
Yep.
You just need to help them
Yeah.
pay their tax, and they'll pay their tax. Above them are people who, if they get a sniff that they could
Yeah,
do something
weasel
different,
out.
they'll do it.
So
But
they're the businessmen. They're
everyone.
everyone. Yeah,
Everyone.
sure.
Everyone. Anyone could be in that category.
Yep.
Above them are people who are actively doing it, but
Mhm.
are still within. They still work within the system. And the
Yeah.
very peak is people who just don't give a shit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, you're going to have to put them in jail.
Right.
So you've got to catch them and put them in jail.
Yeah,
You've got
right.
to stop their capacity to actually
And what?
act and operate in the economy, because when they do act and operate in the economy, they'll basically be dodging